It's a pleasure to have you on. I am Pius Kojobaka. And look now at our stories. Ghana could soon have access to the international markets for fresh dollar borrowings. That's the view of some international investors and, of course, Eurobond holders after government reached a deal on restructuring of some $13.1 billion with external creditors. There is more in this report.
The country over the past 2 years has been prevented from going onto the international market to raise dollars from investors. Government was shut out of that market after it announced that it is working to restructure debt owed commercial creditors. However, based on new development that Ghana has now reached an agreement to start paying these commercial creditors, it appears that path has been reopened. The Eurobond holders have also maintained that government is now undertaking some measures that will protect investor funds. This will also go a long way to restore market confidence. But for some analysts, they worry the impact of government rushing onto the international market and its impact on the larger economy. As some have argued that the country is in this current state because of excessive borrowing on the international market through the issuance of Eurobond.
Meanwhile, economist Professor Patrick Esuming is advising government against returning to the international capital market to borrow following the conclusion of the debt negotiations with external creditors. Now, speaking earlier on the marketplace, Professor Esuming said it will be immature to go back to the capital market to borrow in these current economic difficulties.
I think that for this one, we should probably say thanks but no thanks to those who are encouraging and urging us to think about returning to the international capital market. I think, first of all, I think practically we are not even anywhere near close to that, because you recall that when we signed the IMF program, it debarred us from taking on additional commercial debt until the program is finished. So any discussion about, formalizing and returning to the capital.
We still apologize for that. We shall bring you that visual in our subsequent bulletins. But the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that it has achieved 62.5% compliance with its sustainable banking principles launched for banks in November 2019. The principles ensured that banks observe strict regulations in the financial sector to help in sustainable economic growth. Speaking at the launch of the Environmental, Social and Governance Certification Program by the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Elsie Aduawaji, said there is more room for improvement to achieve 100% compliance. We shall bring you that story later in other bulletins, but let's stay a while longer at the central bank because they have given the firm assurance that they have the required laws to prudently regulate financial technology firms operating in the remittance and money transfer space. Now, this follows concerns that the country is not capturing all inflows into Ghana because of some regulatory lapses. Let's get on to Zoom and speak to the head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Kwame Opong. And Kwame, thanks so much for joining us on Business Live. Now, what are some measures or some of the measures that you have instituted to ensure that activities of all these fintechs are properly captured when it comes to money transfers? Kwame.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers and listeners. I think over the years, everyone may have observed that Bank of Ghana's framework for the digital financial service ecosystem has been anchored on the banking sector. So as non-bank players came in, whether it was mobile money or the new payment service providers, they have all operated anchored in the commercial banking space. And I think also even taking a step back, remember, much of what is being discussed, clearly, if you look at the data, and I'm sure you had the opportunity to examine the data, is that there's actually no variation. It's largely consistent with the World Bank data, what we've been reporting as a central bank, and what is being reported by the World Bank. So that is consistent. But coming back to the issue of how the central bank is ensuring that there's consistency, first of all, as you know, Ghana does not license money transfer operators because these companies reside abroad and they partner with local institutions to deliver inward remittances. And over the years, that had been within the remit of commercial banks, and subsequently, fintechs came into the space on account of the efficiency that they started bringing, the costs, particularly the time that people were able to receive it, and moving away from picking up cash from the bank branches and agent branches in person to delivering a mobile money wallet. That was done with a very careful framework that is consistent with international best practice. So as it stands today, every single authorized payment service provider who facilitates inward remittances in Ghana is required to do so with a partner bank. And so while they bring that technology capability, they have a partner bank through whose nostro account the funds are received. So not only is it captured, it's also adequately identified and reported, and the central bank has visibility on that. And if you look at the previous guideline from 2021 and the updated version in 2023, you see that consistent improvement to even further strengthen the regime that governs that space. So hopefully this gives your audience and the stakeholders a sense of how the space is regulated.
All the inflows are properly being accounted for.
Yes, so that is the case. And if you look at our reporting, first of all, every institution that is licensed by the central bank reports to the central bank. And this was the first time that Bank of Ghana was sharing that information in its annual reports, for instance, to give stakeholders a sense of what the emerging developments in the space are, and particularly in relation to the fintechs. And so today, when you look at the existing framework, as I mentioned earlier, the commercial banks are capturing all the inflows because the commercial bank receives these inflows on behalf of their clients, which is these PSPs, the fintechs. Then the fintech takes responsibility after having received the CD equivalent from their commercial bank. Then they disperse it onto mobile money wallets and bank accounts. So this has really been their role. So from a reporting and capture perspective, once it's coming through the commercial banking sector, it is adequately captured based on the reporting the commercial banking side as well. So the central bank has visibility, and I think that confusion may potentially be as a result of this sector being relatively new. And as we saw in the early days of mobile money where people weren't really appreciating the dynamics, I think that's just one of those teething issues that as the audience and stakeholders pay closer attention and get better clarity on how the sector works, they will understand it better.
And do you think it was a prudent idea to allow fintechs play in this remittance space and also ensure that these regulations do not affect innovation?
Certainly. I mean, if you look at the trends globally, Ghana is not an exception. And if you look at the trends globally, I think even the World Bank and IMF and everyone else has identified this, their presence in the space has actually helped capture a bit more. You've seen the cost of remittances come down. I think whether it's NTUs and when you look at Ghanaians living abroad, you can interview them, whether they were sending money through African stores in Brixton or Bronx, they were paying more. Now the cost has come down because the fintechs have brought a bit more technology efficiency and actually partnering with banks to add value to the consumers, add value to the commercial partners in the partnership, but particularly adding value in terms of capturing more of the remittances that in some cases would have gone through the informal sector and bringing them through the formal sector so that we can capture and benefit from that as a country.
Head of Fintechs and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Kwame Opong, we are indeed grateful speaking to us here on Business Live. We are back after this break. I want to take you back to our earlier story where the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that it has achieved 62.5% compliance with sustainable banking principles launched for banks in November 2019.
The Bank of Ghana, also with the support of the IFC and SECO, rolled out a number of programs aimed at orienting, training, and building the capacity of bank staff at all levels, as well as engaging with boards of banks to help with the smooth implementation of the principles and sector guidance notes, and to help with reporting on compliance. Based on the bank's reporting to the Bank of Ghana, we observe a continuous improvement in compliance levels since implementation took effect in January 2020. And banking supervision tells me that the average compliance rate for banks as of the end of December 2023 is at 62.5%. And this represents a significant milestone, as BSD tells me. So, evidently, there's still ways to go, but we have come a long way from ground zero. And so it's good news. The Bank of Ghana continues to promote stronger governance in the banking sector through our regulatory and supervisory activities.
Dr. Elsie Aduawaji is the second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Ending Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. See you soon. Bye.